Welcome to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast. I'm your host, Vista Chamber CEO Rachel Beld, and it is my privilege to interview the movers, shakers, and change makers impacting our Vista community and beyond. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Jim Desmond, San Diego County Supervisor for District 5, which includes Vista. Supervisor Desmond was elected to County Supervisor in 2018, and before that, he served as the mayor of San Marcos from 2006 to 2018, and as a city council member for 2 years prior. He has a rich, varied resume. A proud U.S. Navy veteran, Jim attended San Diego State University, earning a BS degree in electrical engineering. And in his professional career, Supervisor Desmond was a pilot for Delta Airlines for over 30 years, retiring as a captain in 2020. He's also founded, built, and then sold a technical writing and document company. He lives in North County with his wife, Carrie, and they are the parents of 2 adult children. So welcome, Supervisor Desmond. I'm glad to have you here.
Well, Rachel, thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm just really excited to dig in and talk about all of the things that are happening in North County. But first of all, I want to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm just curious, did you grow up here in San Diego?
No, actually, I grew up in the Midwest, in the state of Illinois, and the winters were brutal, and the summers were just almost as bad. So I joined the Navy. I enlisted in the Navy, and when I was 19 years old, and spent 4 years in the Navy. I was luckily, I got based in 2 beautiful places. I was based 2 years in Key West, Florida, and 2 years in San Diego. And so San Diego, so Navy brought me here. I met my bride here, and we've been married for 37 years now and raised our family here.
That's amazing. I always love to hear how people end up in San Diego County, because while we have a lot of people that are born and raised here and stay here, lots of people move here because it's such a beautiful place to live. I know I'm a transplant from Texas, moved here in 2003. So I love to hear what led you to be here. So, and of course, we have such a rich military history here in our community. Yeah. So I'm not surprised to hear that the Navy brought you here. So thank you for sharing that. So you were in the Navy, then a pilot with Delta Airlines, and then you had also owned a company. When in that time period, or was there something specific that led you to want to run for political office? Well,
I never dreamed of being in politics or things like that. But, when our kids were born, I started getting involved and I started volunteering. Mm-hmm. And so I volunteered at their elementary school to be on the parent-teacher organization. And they made me the chair right away. And so I did that. But then the kids got in scouting. And so I volunteered. My wife and I we volunteered in scouting. So really, I started out volunteering for things. And then I found out the more you volunteer, the more responsibility people give you. Mm-hmm. And so through my business that I had in the 90s, I got on the Economic Development Committee, and then I got on the Planning Commission in the city of San Marcos. And then somebody asked me to run for city council. Okay, I'll volunteer for that. And I did that. And then as an engineer, I love learning how things work and then hopefully try to make them better. So, we're learning how streets, roads, infrastructure, parks get built, taxes get collected, all those types of things are interesting to me. Mm-hmm. The politics is a little different, but I just enjoy learning how things work. I started volunteering and ended up here as a county supervisor.
That's awesome. It's interesting you mentioned about infrastructure and roads and things like that. I'm also super interested in those topics, although I have no interest in running for office. But I think people don't often realize the importance of electing your local council member or county supervisor and the impact that has on your daily life. People get really fired up about voting for the president or voting for a congressperson, but whether your trash gets taken out or if you flush your toilet and it works or how our roads and traffic, that impacts our lives every single day. So mm-hmm. the role that you're playing is super important. So thank you for stepping up, for volunteering. And I hear, I've had the privilege of having a few elected officials on the podcast, and pretty much everyone talks about how it really started with volunteering and a lot of times with their kids. It's so interesting how our investment in our children, we see that as an investment in more of the community. So are there other ways that perhaps being a parent has influenced you as an elected official?
Well, I think, when I did run at first, in thinking about the kids, it's like, well, I want to set an example of not just complaining about how things are done, but being part of it and hopefully, making decisions then in your community. And that's so the kids are, kids change your life. And in this case, for the better for me in the fact that I got involved and I was trying to set a good example for them. We don't always agree on things politics-wise. Now my kids are as adults, but most things we do. But, it's a way of giving back, and back to the community. And, I've had a great career, a great life. And this is kind of my way to serving in my country in the Navy and then as on political boards and in elected office that's just kind of way. And I always try to, want to be perceived as a regular person. I'm not a career politician. I don't have to have this, but I'm willing to do the job if people are willing to have me, and I'm happy to do it. And I try to do what's right, not always what's politically, left or right, but I do try to do what's right and sleep well at night. Good
sleep is important,
That's
especially
right.
with the schedule that you maintain.
Yes.
So, so District 5 represents a really diverse area. It actually is more than half of our county geographically, right? And about 700,000 people,
yes,
I believe. So, and it's from Oceanside, Vista, San Marcos, and East, all the way past Borrego.
And Escondido.
You're right. And so how are you able to effectively represent such a diverse population, both geographically and the people?
Well, there's some juggling that happens, and but I think it's great how diverse it is, because as I had a State of North County address the other day, and we've got so much diversity with not just with people, but with jobs and with geography. We've got oceans, we got mountains, we got deserts, we've got agriculture, we got high tech, we got biotech, we got a university system, we got two community colleges, we have airports, we have hospitals. I mean, it's just we have it all, and my job is not to mess it up, but to it's really, I think it's great. It's fantastic. It's 2,100 square miles, so it unfortunately I put a lot post COVID. Now I'm putting more miles on my car than I was during COVID, but I just love meeting the people and trying to help them be successful. I'm kind of a back to basics type of government person. As we mentioned, streets, roads, infrastructure, parks, public safety, fire, those types of things are the basics. And I want to make sure we provide those so that people themselves, starting up their own businesses or, whatever they're doing can be successful in raising families and working and surviving in San Diego County. So I focus on North County. Unfortunately for us in North County, a lot of the dollars end up in the city of San Diego, where it's more populated, and although I guess north of the 56, we've got about half the population north of the 56 in San Diego County. So I'm always fighting for our dollars and our resources up here to make sure North County gets their fair share of what we're paying into for the resources.
Great. Well, so I realize a lot of people don't know. Yeah. What exactly does a county supervisor do? Like, what do you do?
What do we do? Well, we manage your money. I mean, $7 billion a year now is what
That's a lot of
county budget is. And the county, basically, we are the government for the unincorporated areas. So the unincorporated areas are the areas where they don't have their own city councils or mayors. So in North County, for us, it's Valley Center, Fallbrook, Rainbow, Ranchita, Borrego Springs. But not in my district, but Julian, Ramona, Alpine, Boulevard, all of that is unincorporated area. And so the county, we are the streets, roads, and infrastructure and police and fire for those areas there. But for the cities, though, that we represent, we are, we kind of came into light during COVID, in that a third of that $7 billion that we spend a year is on health and human services. So if, like the Zika virus, when we had that, or hepatitis A, or even with COVID, that's county. That's all under county health. So what the county does is we manage most of the social services that aren't provided by the cities. And some other as well, but the sheriffs are underneath the county, and then the probation department, the public defender's department, the jails, the courthouses, all of that is run and managed by the county. Under the Health and Human Services, we do the behavioral health, child welfare services, senior services, the food stamps, or the CalFresh is what it's called now, foster children, aging and independent services, behavioral health. All of that is under the county. We also manage the agriculture, so for the inspections of the agriculture. Also the beaches. After a rainstorm, the beaches all need to be inspected. The restaurants, we're the ones that inspect all the restaurants, and hopefully there's an A in the window of your restaurants. There's little stamps on the gas pump that tells you this is the true up, what you're really getting. We do all those kind of things.
That's a lot.
I'm not done.
Oh my gosh!
We're
Keep
also
going.
the county assorter. The assessor and recorder. So if you go to buy a house or get a deed or you need something in a document recorder, where the recorder's office, and that person's elected. Actually, the recorder is, and so's the sheriff, and so's the district attorney, which is also part of the county. We manage a district attorney's, Summer Steffens. She runs the department, but we manage her finances and we're her for her budget. Also, there's the registrar of voters office, the treasurer, county treasurer, and tax collector. So grand jury, and I'm leaving out several things, but that's kind of the animal services as well, for like shelters and things like that. We manage those things. So a lot of the social services and the things that the cities pretty much, as mayor, it was those basics of streets, roads, and and parks and trails and police and fire. That was kind of the cities. But beyond that, all those other services are provided by the county, and it's huge. There's 18,000 people that work at the county.
Wow.
There's 5 county supervisors. And the county's overall budget, about $7 billion, I think, is larger than 8 states in the country. My district has 2,100 square miles in North County, which is bigger than the state of Delaware. And states have governments, they have their assembly, they have the Senate, they have the governor that runs the states that are similar in size or budget-wise. We have 5 county supervisors. That's it. And so there's a lot of responsibility. This learning curve when I got this job is very steep, and because to learning all the the language and the acronyms of all the different departments. I think there's about 60 different departments. Even the library system, in San Marcos, the library is a county library. So we've got
same here in Vista.
Same, it's a county library. So those are all run by the county. So there's a lot going on, and most of those services and things kind of happen under the radar. But COVID really kind of brought a lot of things to light in the county supervisors.
There's so much. We could spend probably an episode of this podcast just talking about
all the departments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so for you as a supervisor overseeing, the staff obviously manages the operations, and you're managing budget, policy, direction, and giving that guidance. What do you think are some of the biggest issues that are facing District 5, North County?
Well, I think that the same ones that are, countywide, homelessness is like number one on everybody's radar. I mean, unfortunately, you can't even go to a grocery store or just leave your house to run an errand without encountering, unfortunately, the homeless people that we've got out in our streets. And, I don't like to point fingers, but in this case, the state has really got our hands tied as to what we can do, with the homeless. And the county on that is we have the programs. We have the programs and the dollars to help people who want help, to get them off the streets, to help them if they get an apartment, maybe have some services or their mental health services, or help them with their rent and medications and things like that if they want help. So the county, we don't necessarily build housing or shelters. The cities pretty much do that. We do in the unincorporated area, but we don't have as many homeless people there. So we're kind of the service and side of homelessness. But unfortunately, the state has our hands tied. If somebody doesn't want help that's homeless, we can't force them into help. We can't force them into programs. We can't make them seek help. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that are homeless have mental health issues. And so, and then they deal with that. And, being homeless makes it even worse for somebody with a mental health issue. And they, unfortunately, then cope with life with drugs and alcohol. And it's not a good system at all. But, I wish we had kind of a higher level of custodialship to where, I don't want to be locking people up that are homeless and our jail is the #1 provider of mental health services in San Diego County.
That's a heartbreaking thing to learn.
And it's not the right place. It's not the place for people with mental health issues to go, because unfortunately, people are homeless. Eventually, a crime is committed and they end up in jail, and that just exacerbates their problem on mental illness. And so, I think we should be able to, take people in that maybe are a certain level of mental health, they can't make good decisions for themselves. Where that is or is not going to be easy line to draw. But what we're doing right now isn't working. And it's it's not an endearing term, but we play whack-a-mole with these encampments. Just the other day at the IHOP in Sycamore, we had an encampment that got cleared out here in Vista, and so it's homelessness is huge. It's big on the radar. We're still dealing with it. We're trying to. We've had many successes with homelessness and helping people who are willing to get help or willing to take help. We've got many successes, but we also have just as many encampments out there. So that's really big on the list. Another thing that I'm keeping my eye on is fentanyl. We have a lot of deaths. It's almost doubled, maybe even tripled from what it was a few years ago. The amount of people that we have dying from fentanyl overdoses. Well, I think I just heard yesterday we have 2 a day per county just dying of fentanyl overdose. And it's the #1 killer for people 18 to 45. And so, unfortunately, it's just coming across the borders, and it's being put in recreational drugs like ecstasy or Xanax and those types of things, or even cocaine. And I've even heard you could be in marijuana, but it's going into the recreational drugs. So fentanyl is also a very huge issue. So we are doing some things about it, and particularly in North County. I just want to kind of brag a little bit. We've opened up 3 crisis stabilization units, which are basically ERs for people who have mental health issues. Hospital ER is not necessarily a place to go for somebody with mental health. If they're bleeding, that's where you go. But if you got mental health issues, you can go to these crisis stabilization units. Family members can take people to these crisis stabilization units. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Somebody can be held there for up to 24 hours. We get them stabilized. We get them on their medicines. Hopefully, if they're homeless, we try to get them into shelters and things like that. So we've opened 3 along the 78 corridor, one in Escondido, one in Vista here, and one in Oceanside. In San Marcos, One Safe Place is going to be opening up soon, and this has been an effort with our my office and Summer Stephan, our district attorney, mostly her, is this place where for victims of domestic violence or victims of sex trafficking and things like that have a place to go. It's not housing, but it's a place where they can get all the services of medical exams. They can get restraining orders if they have to get them, or they can get help for housing, and we help them find housing. All sorts of services available, where it used to be somebody had to go to 6 or 7 different places if they're a victim of domestic violence. Now we're going to have that under one roof. So we are doing things for mental health. We're trying to do the things we can. If we can't physically remove people off the streets, if we can at least get them the mental health services that they need and maybe get them into there, then we can and maybe get them on a healthier path than being homeless. Yeah.
Wow. So much work being done in that area. What do you think, and I know you've been an entrepreneur, you've owned a business. Do you think that, government has the solutions for these problems, or do you think it's more an entrepreneurial approach is needed?
Probably both. I mean, government has the resources. Mm-hmm. Government has the money, to do these things. And you've got, especially in Vista, you've got many, entities here that kind of fill in those gaps. You've got Operation Hope. You've got, interface services. You got Lifeline. Is it Lifeline?
Lifeline and Solutions.
License and Solutions for Change. So you've got many entities that are out there trying to, we're all trying to battle this from different angles. And I'll admit, the government does not have all the answers all the time. So I think it's great that there's other entities out there. And if they're successful, then maybe we can, I have grant dollars I can give out every year. It's about $3 million a year that I primarily give out to nonprofits and social services and places like that. And all of those entities we give money to, I don't know if it's on an annual basis, but we do help them be successful. So, government doesn't have all the answers. And I think as all of us, pulling together and working together, I think hopefully we'll get through this someday, but there's got to be some changes in Sacramento as well.
So you thank you for mentioning the grant program that you have, because and so each supervisor, you said, gets about $3 million.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's a good pot of money, and I know that you've been really supportive of the Vista Chamber and our efforts, supporting the Vista Strawberry Festival this year. Thank you for that. And then also we're putting out our Vista magazine in Spanish. Actually, the issue will be out in the next few days, so we're really excited about that. And then also we partnered with some other chambers in San Diego North EDC on the SoCal Workforce Project, which you supported. Do you want to say anything about that, or why did you feel like that was an important thing to support?
Well, particularly for jobs and things like that, and unfortunately, one of the other challenges I didn't bring up is a lack of housing. And so one of the things that we have learned in North County with Cal State San Marcos and with Mira Costa College and Palomar College, a lot of the kids and students that go to school here stay here. Okay, so it's hard to import talent from other parts of the country where our housing prices, I think we're the worst in the nation now. It used to be San Francisco, or the highest in the nation. And so we need to grow our own. And so supporting programs like that, that I did with these North County Economic Development and all the chambers, is putting videos together, letting so children can see the opportunities and what businesses, and maybe, choose a career path, anything to help. I was always, when I was mayor of San Marcos, tying together a business, education, and government was always a big goal of mine. And so I still want to continue in that vein, but we have dollars that we get. You said the $3 million is a lot. I wish it was more, because most of the things we do at the county is sort of done with a broad brush. It's all county-wide. But these $3 million, and I wish it was $5 million or more, go to the specific districts, because every district is different. North County is different than South County and East County and downtown San Diego. So what we get to do with this is kind of emphasize the uniqueness of our districts by funding these grant dollars into those entities that are doing good for our region, and making sure that we able to be successful in North County in our own way, and with the dollars that come in from through these grant programs. That's
great. Do you know how long the county's been doing the NRP and the community enhancement grants? I feel like it's been a long time.
A long time. And I know it's been controversial over the years. They used to call it the slush fund and everything else. And now that I'm part of it, and I get to direct some of these, these dollars, and people think it's my money. It's not. It's yours. But I get to direct it, and during COVID, we were trying to, especially for small businesses, I was trying to direct the ARPA dollars, the federal dollars, towards storefronts. Mm-hmm. So we didn't want storefronts, all closing up, and then also the chambers of commerces and things like that. The big box stores were okay, but most of it was the mom and pop restaurants and storefronts that we did not want to see shutting down, because once you see that happening in a community, it's not a good sign or good news. So that's where I tried to direct some of those dollars.
That's great. So obviously that must be one fun part of your job, is getting to choose folks and to award the money. Are there any other parts that you really, really enjoy about the work that you do?
Well, I love supporting the community, and we're parks. We're opening a large regional park along the 76. We've got, I think it's like almost $25 million for that project.
Wow.
And it's going to be hopefully one day you're going to be able to ride a bicycle all the way from Oceanside to the 15, and they're calling it From Waves to Wineries. So along the 76, along the 76. So right now where the San Luis Rey golf course used to be, across from the elementary school in Bonsall, the county owns that land now, and we're making it into a regional park with ball fields and skate park and soccer fields and all sorts of things there. And then also by the 15, another park, and we're going to connect those two with a trail, and then hopefully connect up to the bike trail that runs along the San Luis Rey River. So that's, so it's awesome. Fun. It's fun, to get things done and be part of the community. And like I said, I always focus on usually, unfortunately, on some of the more controversial issues on the wrong side of a 3-2. But I'm being able to bring money and resources to North County just kind of makes me feel good. And we've been able to bring millions of dollars to North County, and I'm going to keep fighting for us and our share of the resources.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What do you think is the hardest part about your work?
The hardest part, it even as being mayor, just being in politics, is telling somebody no. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody comes to you and say, hey, I want a stop sign in my intersection. Well, we can't put a stop sign in everybody's intersection. They want a speed bump. It's like, well, it's all right, can't do that. Or they want, you know, the road closed off, or they want something. It's like, no, we can't really do those types of things. So I think kind of the hardest part is saying no to people, because you want to be able to help people in as much as we can, but there's only so much we can do at times. But to see us kind of struggling with homelessness is frustrating. That we're better than that. We are, as a society. We're a very affluent society. North County has got the resources and money. And unfortunately, we can't really, this is something that I think as a society we're better than, and we should be able to help people. But unfortunately, our hands are tied, and we see it throughout the entire state, all the homeless and issues that we have. I think we definitely need to do bigger and better solutions towards that effort. And I'm willing to do it, but it's just, unfortunately, we have like one hand tied behind our back. So
yeah. In the political environment, does it ever feel personal? Like sometimes people aren't nice to people, especially online and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a pretty thick skin to be in your role?
Yeah, but
does that get to you sometimes?
It used to when I first got into it, but not anymore so much. It's like, look, there's 5 county supervisors, and there's a reason for that. We're all going to have differences. We're all going to have different opinions. And I have tried throughout, and I'm not perfect, but I have tried, even as being mayor, not to publicly bash my peers, whether we agree or not. And I've been baited on TV and even podcasts, things like that. Well, this guy said this about you, or somebody said something bad about you. It's like they got a right to say whatever they want. So I try not to publicly bash anybody. We all got our difference of opinion, and there's sometimes that we agree. I mean, most of the time, about 90% of the things we vote on, we all agree on. But there's going to be some hot button issues that come up, and you can't take it personally. You just say, okay, well, that's how that one went. Next. What is there other things we can work on or go forward with? So I try not to get too upset if somebody says something bad about me, or, the vote didn't go quite the way I wanted it. I'll, express myself about the opinion or about the issue, but I try not to bash anybody, because it depends on the topic. Sometimes your friends and enemies are interchangeable depending on the topic. And I want to get things done in North County. I just can't be mean to my colleagues, especially if I want them to vote for money for parks and roads and infrastructure in North County. So it's I don't know if I want to say it's a game, but you gotta play nice, and hopefully you get the things you need as well.
Well, hopefully our elected officials are in this role because they care about the community and they want to do what's right. And so personal attacks don't really take you very far. And hopefully people listening, I see as a bystander watching online when people say horrible things. I've had people say mean things about me and my role. I'm like, I'm just at the chamber. I don't have any control. Yeah. But it can be hurtful. So thank you for talking a little bit about that. So as we're getting to the end of our conversation, and we haven't talked about the S word, and that's sandag. So I want to ask you if you have any. I know you've been really vocal about fighting for North County, and so I want to just know if you have anything you want to say or add about sandag.
Well, unfortunately, sandag actually in and of itself is a good thing. It's all the region, mostly the mayors and council members that get together and decide regionally what the transportation system in San Diego County should look like. So sandag decides where the freeways are going to be, the on-ramps, the off-ramps. They also, where the trolley is going to go, the sprinter, the coaster, all those types of things that are decided by sandag. And currently we're paying a 0.5-cent sales tax to sandag. So every time you make a purchase, a 0.5 cent of your sales tax goes to sandag and the regional transportation. Unfortunately, in North County, we've been left on the back burner and we have not got the projects that were promised to us in the last tax measure, and which was voted on in 2004. The tax started in 2008. It's going to continue until 2048. So we're going to be paying for projects that are not being delivered. And one of the biggest ones, and one of the biggest complaints I hear about traffic in North County, is the 78. And so what was promised in this last taxing go around was that we would get an HOV lane, a new HOV lane in each direction on the 78 between the I-5 and between the I-15, and those two interchanges at the I-5 and the I-15 would be redone and workable to at least get rid of the stoplight that we have at the I-5 and the 78. So those and now Sandig has come up with a new plan which says no, now we're not going to do those things. In North County, we're going to be still paying for these projects that they're not delivering that they promised last time. They say they're going to change they're going to take one of our existing freeway lanes and turn it into a managed lanes. So basically they're going to take one of the existing general purpose lanes, turn it into buses only or carpool. It's not going to be an HOV lane, a pure HOV lane. It's going to be buses and transit, maybe a toll lane for HOV or lanes, but it's not going to be what was promised. And so I'm hopping mad about that. I do not, and here Sandig's going to be coming again this year asking for more money for their new plan, which to me shortchanges North County, and the people in North County are going to be paying until 2048 for projects they're not going to get. And here's Sandig with their hand out again. And so don't sign the petitions at the grocery stores. Don't vote for this in North County. And we do need a better transportation system. We absolutely do. But I think it should be focused more on technology, the new technology, autonomous vehicles, and instead of trying to put everybody on buses or tax you out of your cars, which is basically, and they want to do a mileage tax. So they want to have three more half-cent sales taxes and a mileage tax, and they want to change 819 miles of roadways in San Diego County and make them into toll lanes.
So what can we do as voters? We just don't vote for it.
Yeah.
Don't sign the petitions.
Don't sign the petitions because they're selling the petitions as public safety and road improvements, which is not true. And so, yeah, what you can do, don't vote for these. It's going to come out. I don't know what measure it's going to be called. It might be measure A, B, or C. I'm not sure. What we don't know yet. In November, don't vote for these increases until they fulfill the promises that they've already made to us. It's not that we're against better transportation system. It's just we're tired of paying for things not being delivered. So don't vote for these. And as we get closer to the election, hopefully I'll have more opportunities to tell people what number it is or letter that to oppose, and just keep your promises. I mean, that's the best thing you can do as a government entity.
And it's a countywide vote.
Yes.
But it seems like North County really has to unify around this issue in order to not have it move forward.
And East County.
Yeah.
And say, go back to the drawing board or fulfill your promises that you made, and then let's talk.
Yeah.
But to tell us we're only 14 years into this 40-year tax, and now they're telling us, no, we're not going to do what we promised you. So that's kind of frustrating. But I would like to say, I know you're trying to wrap this up, but my office is open to anybody. If you call us, I don't have really open office hours. We have to set appointments for that. But if you have any questions, anybody has a question, even if it's not even county related, we will help you. I got a great staff of 9 people. We actually answer the phones during business hours, and we'll get back to you with emails and things like that. And I got a very responsive staff. And so even if you're not even sure if it's county related or not, we'll get you to the right entity. You may not always like the answer we give you, but we'll get you an answer.
I appreciate that. that. So I have a couple of quickie questions I always ask every person I interview.
Okay.
So I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So the first one is, tell me a book that you think everyone should read.
Well, I read this one a long, long time ago, and it influenced my life greatly. It's called The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran.
The Prophet. Okay. All right. I'll put that on my list.
Okay.
Okay. And tell me.
It's a short book. It's short. It's a quick read.
Okay. Tell me a song you love. What's your jam? You have to turn it up. You got to tap your toe. Maybe sing along. What's a song you love?
There's many of them.
Of course.
Wild Thing.
Wild Thing.
I like that one.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. I know the next verse just came in your head, didn't it?
Yes, it certainly did. It certainly did. Okay. Tell me something that inspires you.
Inspires me. What inspires? I guess people that are willing to step up and volunteer and not just complain. So I guess because that's what I did, and so maybe that's what inspired me to get in these positions. So I think, it really, when I go to like Solutions for Change, or I go to, North County Lifeline, or I go to some of these places that people are just stepping up and doing the right thing. They're not even getting paid for it. They're just, and it's more of a labor of love than for money and things like that. It's because they feel it's right. So it inspires me to see people step up and do the right thing. And that's one of the cool things about the people in the unincorporated areas. They kind of all pull together and they do things and get things done, and even without government, so I love it when they do that. So, people are willing to step up and volunteer.
I love it. I love that answer. Okay, last one. Tell me a Vista business that you think deserves a shout out.
There's many new ones, and I got to tell you, downtown Vista has really got a whole new vibe, and it's going to be good. And I've talked to other people that are investing in downtown Vista, but I got to tell you, the one that comes to mind that I always love to go to because of their phenomenal fruit bowls is Curbside Cafe.
Yum.
You go there for breakfast, and it's everything that you would want to have in a fruit bowl, all these different fruits, but you're too lazy to cut them up. In my case, but somebody else did it. Yeah,
there's mango and papaya and kiwi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know. They deserve a shout out, but Vista's really coming along, and it's got a great future.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. I know you have a really busy schedule, and I appreciate your time. So thank you, Supervisor Desmond, for joining me today, and thank you for listening to Velocity. Let's move Vista forward. And thank you all for listening. If you like what you heard, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell a friend. Help us move Vista forward with Velocity. The Vista Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization which serves as a catalyst to business growth. Visit us online at vistachamber.org.